Right, good morning, everybody here from sunny Surrey, well, kind of sunny Surrey here in the UK. And I'm going to be talking about my journey of setting up my own 100% owned offshore accountancy operation and in team in India over the next 20 to 30 minutes. So, over the last few years, we've been helping many other accounting firms with their offshoring needs. But some firms are now starting to ask me, Arun, actually, my team's getting bigger. I don't really want to use your team members. I want to set up my own operations. So this is kind of an interesting development in the marketplace where they have to set up their own team, they have to have their own infrastructure, their own offices. So I thought today I would share my kind of insights, experiences, good, bad, and ugly. Okay, to be honest with you, to see okay how can you do it yourself. So if you can't attend this webinar today, don't worry. This is all being recorded. I will share this, and this will be available for people to download. So one of the things that we've done on our business is that we've done a hell of a lot of created a lot of content. We share everything that we do and tell people how we do it. Okay, good, bad, and ugly, as I said. And I'm going to refer people firstly to this link if they haven't seen it already. I will put this link here in the chat in the comments, because this is an article we wrote a little while back about the 37 steps to successfully set up your accountancy offshoring firm in India. So I thought I'd go through this and kind of run through, rather than read it, but kind of explain where we've got to and how we've got to. So let me give you a bit of a backstory firstly. So when I started out, my firm was very much is a standard UK firm. And we deal with predominantly dentists, doctors, healthcare professionals. And many years ago, we started out outsourcing with some third-party firms. And we found the quality declining. And so we thought, you know what, we're going to do it ourselves. And this was just prior to COVID. So after COVID, we realized that we need to set up our own operations in India, and we set up our own team. And this is kind of my journey since that point of how I set up my operations, warts and all of what I did. So if I kind of start off with choosing India as a destination to do outsourcing and offshoring, I think as many firms have experienced here in the UK and the US and Canada, is that many firms, especially the small to medium-sized firms, struggle to find staff. There's certainly demand for services, for help, for support from clients, but they don't have the team to deliver. And when you don't have the team to deliver, you can't actually grow your business or grow your firm. So it's imperative that you have the right people in the right place to grow your firm. So my background and historically and culturally is Indian. I'm born and brought up in the UK, but I have roots and connections in India. So it was an obvious choice for me. Obviously, there are other places around the world, but I know India and I understand India and I know the capability of Indian people. And that was a real major driver for me to say, okay, I'm going to do this in the Indian market. So how did I start? What did I do? What are the steps that I decided to do? So the first step I considered was, and the first step you may need to consider is, do I want to set up my own team or not? Now, if you've got scale, if you're going to add people, you're going to have significant team members, then in the long term, no doubt, having your own team, having your own infrastructure, your own offices, team members who work directly with your UK, US team is no doubt a game changer, and would be the most cost-effective way for you to do this. However, to get to that point takes time, it takes effort, and it takes understanding of how to do these things. So the way I started off with my firm is that I wanted to make sure I had dedicated resource in India to support my firm here in the UK. And that meant hiring people, the right people out there to hire. So that was kind of my first step, to realize that I don't want to just do ad hoc work, the odd person I'm going to use once in a while in India. I need a dedicated team that's going to be part of my global team to deliver and get the work done in an effective manner, cost-effective manner, but also accurately and I suppose delivered on time. So the first thing you may need, well, one of the first steps is to consider what aspects do you want to set up overseas? What do you want to offshore? Now, for ourselves, initially, we started off with all the normal compliance work. So we do the bookkeeping using Xero, QuickBooks, all that type of stuff. Our team members in India then do year-end accounts using software like TaxCalc. We also do the tax returns, personal and corporate. We do payroll. We do kind of managing accounts, valuation work, you name it. Most of the kind of routine accounting things that we do it's done by our team in India now. Now, when we started out, we just started off with the bookkeeping, but now, if for anyone who wants to run an audit firm, they can add audit to the mix as well, and there's people out there who can help to do the audit. And I think it's important to think about what technologies you'll have in place, because that will be make a massive difference, and what team members in India are available to actually kind of do the work, do the actual work per se. Okay, so and then using the right technology. So you're determining the scope of services you're going to offer. Now, beyond my team now, I have not only accounting team members now, I have marketing team members that support my UK firm, SEO people, marketing admin, of course, video editors. Then I've also added data engineers data scientists to my team very recently, which is an exciting thing for us to develop our own AI tools and agents within our team. So we have a whole range of skill sets sitting in India to support us. I suppose then the next step is to think about, okay, what kind of, apart from what services, but where would you then kind of go up and set up, and how are you going to do it? So that's another webinar. And so my idea and route was I'm going to set up in India. I'm going to set up in Delhi. I know Delhi. I've been there many times over the years, so I was familiar with that place. So if you're familiar with a particular location, maybe you would open up or set up offices there. Alternatively, if you're not, you probably need to get some help from someone like myself to think, okay, what strategically is the right decision and right location for you to open up? Because pan-India, there are people all over the place to help you operate and run your firm out there, but different skill sets, different language skills, different English speaking skills, they all vary across India. So the question then moves on to, who do you hire? What type of people? Once you've got the clarity of what the services you're offering, what type of people you're going to hire. And they're really imperative to write job descriptions for these people. What will they be doing on a day-to-day basis? Because that will then help you then put the feelers out to recruitment agents or online platforms to find people. Now, the question you might be asking is, well, how much should I be paying these people in India? There are definitely the salaries are, of course, much lower here in India than they are in the UK or US, but you can still get the wool pulled over your eyes, and you want to pay good rates, and you want to pay competitive rates, but at the same time you want to pay attractive rates to attract the good talent that may well be there in India as well to your firm. But I suppose the first thing you have to figure out is you need to get that first hire. So when I put the feelers out there, I wanted to get one person in India, because that one person is going to be instrumental, not just in maybe doing some of the work, but really building the team. And that's been a fundamental point of my firm, is finding the right person and building that team with the right person. So when I did this, I remember I interviewed this individual, and eventually interviewed quite a few people. And then we found one person. We thought, you know what, he's got the right experience, he's got the right credentials, he seemed like a great guy. And we thought, right, this is the right guy. And we decided we're going to take that step, and we hired him. So, and that person is still with us, and they're a director of the firm in India, and they've now helped us kind of set up the right infrastructure, the right people, the right places across the organization, things from billing to HR to labor law to contracts, to you name it. They've been heavily involved, and the firm wouldn't be there where we are without that individual, for sure. And then the next thing is, well, you've got that. If I want to find that really key individual, you have to think about, where do I find those people? And an obvious place is LinkedIn. Okay, there's a whole range of people in India who are on LinkedIn, and it's a very active platform in India, and that's kind of how we found that first person. But there are other portals that you can try and get into and find. And I remember when we put an advert out on LinkedIn, I think it was, we had like overnight, we had almost 1,000 applicants for the job, and we couldn't believe it. So we then had to figure out how we're going to sift through it and be pretty brutal to say who's right, who's not right, and then work out how we're going to find that right person to join our team. Now, the first step in the process, we did video interviews with various people, talked to people, saw what their language skills were like, saw what their attitudes were like, saw if they turned up on time to the video interviews, to see how serious they were. All of these things that would be important. And also, where would they be based? This was all part of the process as well. So we interviewed many people, must be a couple of dozen. And that way we got a good feel of what is the quality like, who are the people, how can we then find that right star in the team. And some were great and some weren't so great, but at least we then understood the makeup of the market. The key aspect for us was to figure out, okay, for me personally, was that we wanted someone with strong communication skills, and that was really paramount, because they need to speak English well, they need to be liaising potentially with clients here in the UK. And I think that was a really important aspect. And beyond that, then we started to do technical skills. Now we do that now for every hire that we engage, not only the communication side, we do technical tests. Obviously, if they're bookkeeper, they'll have to have done Xero or QuickBooks and got their certification. But we do actual physical tests online to see actually, can they do the work? How do they react when asked maybe a challenging question? How do they respond accordingly as well? So definitely consider having some tests ready and testing them and seeing if people how they get on. Okay. Now, remember that first hire, when you get that first person, one of the reasons we hired someone from a competitor firm who'd been working in the industry a number of years, that was really helpful for us because they had a wide network, because that first person will probably be then a good conduit for other people to talking to. They know other people in the industry. They are aware of other people who may be quite good, who may apply for jobs further down the line. And that was very helpful for us. So I think that's important as well, that first hire profile. Not only are they technically able, great communication skills, but they have a network, because that network will then helps feed your client or potential future hires into the firm. And then once you've got those other people who are joining, and obviously if they're enjoying it and they're working well and they're having a great time working at your firm, they'll potentially be able to speak to other friends and family and colleagues that they know who think, oh, it's actually really good working at this firm, I'll come. And that's kind of, to be honest with you, how I suppose maybe 65-70% of my team has grown, is through the network within my existing team. And that's been really helpful for us. Now, what about the practical aspects? You may be thinking, well, Arun, that's great, we need to hire people, but you need to make sure that you comply with all the red tape in India. And to be honest, there is a hell of a lot of red tape. The first step is forming a company. And like in the UK, we can form a company within a day easily, okay? In India, don't expect that, especially if you're sitting overseas. You need to make sure you have a local director firstly, in India, but then you need to make sure you have terms I've never even heard before. We need to get things verified by a notary public here in the UK. It's called apostillization. There was a whole range of things that I had to do. So while forming a company in India technically is very cheap, the actual other things that go around it is actually a real minefield. Especially employing lawyers here in the UK, or notary publics in the UK, having to help me do this properly. But there's a whole guide on this on our website of how to do it, and I'd urge you to have a look. On the tax side of things, again, we needed to hire a local chartered accountant in India who understood the local kind of lay of the land, understanding the income tax rules, the GST, the good sales tax tools, PAN numbers, which is like a permanent account number, tax deduction and collection account number. There are all these different things, okay? Which is, once you've got your head around it, it's okay. But initially, when you're thinking about it, it's like, oh my God, how do I do this? I have no idea. What am I doing? And so it's imperative that you have a good accountant in India to help you. Now, that good accountant could actually be your first hire into the team, and they deal with that. Or potentially you hire a third-party chartered accountancy firm in India to support you with that. So there's different ways to look at it. I hired someone who I thought could be good to help operate the team, but he knew other good chartered accountancy firms to support us, and we got the advice where we needed, when we needed, and similarly we got legal advice where we needed and when we needed. So we had to get things like contracts drawn up for employees. Again, good lawyers would help. So assuming you get your company set up and it's all happening, then you need to think about, okay, what about banking? You want people to pay us, we need to pay staff, we need to pay other suppliers, office costs, electricity costs, you name it. And that was, again, an eye-opener for me, okay? And what I realized was that we wanted to open up, I realized we wanted an international bank because it would just make our lives easier. So our first bank account is with HSBC. And in the event of that problem arising there, we have another bank account with Standard Chartered, again, another international bank, which have offices here in the UK, which has made it slightly easier for us when sending documents, that type of thing. And so I can pop into the HSBC, my local HSBC here in Guildford, and send any documents between HSBC and the Indian HSBC, and they can get things done on their internal system, which certainly helps. But then, assuming you get all that set up, there's still so many things to think about. Okay, how are you going to set up? Are you going to have remote working, or expecting people to come into the offices? And in India, to have a company, you need to have a registered office. It could be just one little room or with one desk, but you still need to have that space, which you need to commit to and pay for. So when I decided, I thought, right, we'll have a small office, but I want to find the best talent. So we decided, well, we'll find the best talent, and they may not be in Delhi, all of them, when they're ready to hire. So we decided we're going to have very much a remote first. And whilst we have some team members in Delhi, we have team members everywhere. We have people in Chennai, Bangalore, Mumbai, and then other places you may never even heard of, okay, across India, Chandigarh or Patiala, or you name it, all over across India. And because we found we want to find the best talent, and that's kind of worked really well for us, as long as you have the right IT infrastructure in place. So when we were looking for places that were for hiring talent. Are they near? You might want to consider, if you wanted to have an office, you might think, well, it should be near near good universities, or the rental costs are lower. But also, one thing in India you need to be aware of, that especially in the big cities, travel time is long. To get across from one part of Delhi to another, it can take a couple of hours, and by the time the team member gets to the office, they are absolutely exhausted. So, and especially in the heat, or if it's the rains, it's a challenging environment. So we felt, well, it'll be better for the team member and better for the firm if we gave that flexibility. And so we allow that flexibility for people to work from home, as long as they use our infrastructure and technology. We're quite happy with that. We did set up an office. It's a decent office in a decent location. 1 or 2 team members go there, but it's all set up for anyone who wants to go there. In addition, one of the things we also got right was, well, the operational setup was really important. So we made sure we have standard operating procedures defined here in the UK, and then make sure that the team members are trained in those SOPs. Because that would then establish the correct workflows and set up clear communication protocols. And that's been ongoing, and that's always developing, and we're always trying to improve that. Now, in addition, once we, as I mentioned earlier, HR has been an interesting area for us. And after that first team member who joined, we eventually hired our own HR director, because it's pretty much a full-time role, to hiring new people, developing new people, managing the HR side of things to make sure you comply with all the Indian compliance and rules out there. And it was that's been a real eye-opener. I didn't realize how complex it was, but honestly, it's been a really helpful for us as well. As I said earlier, we brought team members on. I went out to India in that first few months when I opened up the office, and I've met. And to be fair, I've been out to India a hell of a lot now. So I go 3 to 4 times a year, meet the team. We've got other team members coming here to the UK later this year. But when we started out, we kind of got the team together and we started to test them on some of the work. We'd do parallel runs with our existing team member here in the UK with the Indian team. And eventually the Indian team would pick it up pretty swiftly. And then that parallel nature of work wouldn't occur. And the guys in India took over much of the work. So I hope that's making some sense. Okay. Where have we got to here? Then also, we as I mentioned earlier, now for future staff and team members that we're hiring, we're pretty rigorous. Okay, we're pretty detailed. We're always making sure when we're taking team members, we do all the background checks, references, criminal checks, you name it. Okay, we're doing all of these just to make sure that we are okay, and the likelihood or the risk is reduced if there's a problem further down. As I said earlier, we have all the employment contracts and we provide all the employee training as well. Constantly, there's a constant training program, whether it's from bookkeeping or whether it's to management accounts or whether it's to tax returns. There's always some training going on across the team across India through Microsoft Teams or Zoom, that type of thing. Now, one of the things we had to make sure was IT and infrastructure was correct. All our data resides here in the UK. We make sure that's managed carefully through servers here. And we have dedicated servers, and the guys and team in India log in to the dedicated server to work on the dedicated server. So it's imperative that they have strong internet connections at their respective locations to actually access it. And obviously, we have all the data security and GDPR rules in place, and we have pretty strict cybersecurity rules in place to make sure that we comply with the UK, Indian, and all other international standards of data security. And we're always testing that. We're always making sure that we have the data security side of things kind of in place, and the team are aware of it. We train them; they're aware of not to do certain things. And if there is a breach, we have a response plan in place. So far, no breaches have ever occurred, and hopefully that will continue. We have also taken cybersecurity insurance out in the event of something potentially happening, always to make sure we have our bases covered. We also make sure that we define communication channels between the teams. So there are regular meetings online for teams to connect with, and they're pretty much always done on Microsoft Teams through our platforms. So kind of, this is, as you can tell, this is a brain dump over the next over the last 20 minutes, and over the next 10 minutes, it still will be. But I think one thing to understand is all the softer skills that you need to really engage and understand. If you're sitting here in the UK, your team sitting here in the UK, and you've got a team you're in India, they're part of your team, and you need to make sure they make sure they feel that you're part of your team. It's not that those people in India are doing the work. No, they're what part of your wider organization, and therefore you need to kind of factor in the cultural understanding and understanding their kind of religious ceremonies, or understanding their days off or holidays and what they get up to. And so it's really important that you build those relationships, not just you, but your team here in the UK, to actually understand them, because that will go a hell of a long way, and it will really help you to cement a strong organization. I would encourage that, as I said earlier, what we're doing, bring team members from India, but also team members from the UK head over there as well. As I said, most of our team is remote across India. So we get them together though on a regular basis. We get team members in India. Well, I'm not necessarily there, but we'll get them in India to meet up, say, every few months together. But I also go to India and we do a kind of a getaway, a kind of team kind of getaway. So recently, myself and my other colleague here, and one of my other colleagues here in the UK, we went to India. We got all the team together, and we had a great fun in a place called Udaipur, and got everyone together, talking, having fun, eating, laughing, playing games, that type of thing. So it's really important that the cultural side of things is implemented properly. And I think if I had to say, looking at it now in hindsight, I think that's the most important aspect of it, is getting the right people together, making them feel welcome, making them feel part of something, and making them feel that they're part of a great organization that's growing, and that you are there to support them and develop their careers as well. It's not a one-way street, it's a two-way street. And I take that very seriously. I want everyone to achieve their goals. I want everyone to do well. And that means having to kind of understand and listen and develop and put training programs for these different people, whatever stage they may well be there. And I think I think it's all about growing and developing that team. I can't do this. I can't run my firm without them. But it allows me the freedom to step away and think strategically. So I'm reliant on my team, different team members for different things, whether they're in the UK or whether they're in India. And obviously we have processes and systems in place, and we need to make sure we're training the team on a regular basis. We need to make sure that we're meeting deadlines, we're meeting deliverables. But because that then helps us grow the firm better. And if I had to say, since I've had my own team in India, and we're a small to medium-sized firm over here in the UK, around in total about £1 million turnover firm. And honestly, having my own team in India has been a game changer. Transformed my firm. It's taken the pressure off the team members in the UK, and it's allowed us to grow strategically and think, okay, what can we offer? How can we grow? And how can we develop the firms or our firm better? So in a nutshell, it's all about the people. It's all about how they can work together. Would I do it again? I wish I'd done it, honestly, 20 years back, setting up my own team. I wish I'd realized that having my own infrastructure in place in India rather than using a third-party one was I'd done that before. But obviously, for a certain size of firm, if you're sub 10 people, sub 15 size people, I'd say it's a lot of work. So if you're that size of organization and you're smaller, then get in touch. We can certainly help you with your kind of dedicated resource that you need. And if you're bigger than that, we can certainly help you also set up and establish everything in India if you need to do that, from HR to offices to recruitment to dealing with company formation, you name it, we can do that as well. We have the whole spectrum of the team to do that. And I think over the next 5-10 years, we can see this is a growing part of accounting. More and more work is being sent to overseas. I think India will be, and it already is, but it's just only going to grow. This is going to be the strong back office, middle office, maybe even the front office for your firm going forward. My team in India deal with clients directly now, face to face, online. That's why we're bringing some of them over from India to meet them in person. Ultimately, at the end of the day, what client wants, they want a good service, on time, delivered, doing what they say and saying what they do at a reasonable price. I think that's worked really, really well for us. So I'll end it there. My brain dump is over. It's coming up to 30 minutes talking straight out to you about all of this subject. I'd welcome any questions if there are any on this platform. If not, please do reach out to me. I think it's an exciting time, and make sure you read that article that I've shared in the comments here. I think also one thing I'm very excited about India going forward. There are challenges, there's no doubt about it. And if you've never been to India, first step is perhaps go out there and talk to people and see people. And if you need any help with that, I can arrange meetings with potential parties out there if you wanted to. Not necessarily my team, but other potential parties. We're all there to help. Because I think the piece of the cake, I don't need all the cake. I only need a small piece of the cake, and that's a vast piece of cake already. And if I can help other firms here in the UK and other firms in India grow and develop and do well, then I think I'm achieving my goal. Right. Well, on that note, I will leave you to it, and good luck, and thank you very much. Cheers.